And good evening. We're doing it live right here. Yabba Dabba Do Time in the 5 o'clock hour. Mottek On Money, 5 nights a week for you. Live on the air here in 790 KBC. Streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com. And yes, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast for you too at KBC.com, Apple, iTunes, all your favorite podcast platforms. Well, coming off one of the worst days of the year for the stock market, we did see a higher close today with the Dow breaking a 3-day losing streak. Looks like those benchmark bond yields eased a bit today after a weaker than expected reading on the job front came out first thing this morning. Stocks ending the day higher as the yield in the 10-year note eased a bit after payroll processing company ADP said the private sector employment number rose by 89,000 in September. That was the smallest increase seen in 2.5 years. Economists were expecting a gain of 150,000. The economic reports the market received this week, including the job openings report we got yesterday and today's ADP report, show the pace of the labor market softening is still very slow and is not leading any indication that interest rates will come down anytime soon, according to some leading analysts today. Meanwhile, the Institute for Supply Management on business conditions fell slightly in the month of September compared to the previous month. We're watching the price of oil plunge today, taking its biggest one-day drop seen in quite some time. So the oil names also took a hit today, including Devon Energy, among others. We're also watching what's happening with McDonald's, the company raising its quarterly cash dividend to $1.67 a share from $1.52, representing a 10% increase at McDonald's. That announcement coming from McDonald's chairman Ronald McDonald today. Nope, just kidding about that one. Apple moving higher today after KeyBank's Brandon Nispel cut his rating on the technology behemoth to sector weight, according to MarketWatch, after being at overweight for at least 2 years. It sounds like a diet plan, but that's how they rate stocks. He said shares of the iPhone maker are trading near all-time high valuation, and U.S. iPhone sales are likely to struggle. Intel shares moving higher today after that chip maker said it would follow up last year's spinoff of Mobileye Global with an IPO of its Programmable Solutions Group in the next few years. LA home sales seeing a slump in September, reversing August gains. 7% decline in pending sales for single-family homes in L.A. County last month. Sales had increased 2%. Downtown vacancies in San Francisco hitting record highs. Office vacancy, that is, has San Jose and Oakland also seeing record office vacancies. The owner of an apartment complex here in Los Angeles area, North Hollywood, suing the city of L.A., accusing local leaders of allowing dangerous conditions that has led to a number of gang-related shootings. This after the city accused the landlord, the owner, of allowing the housing complex to become a stronghold for a gang. We'll get an update on what's happening with real estate, specifically commercial real estate, tonight with Jerry Sullivan, national managing editor at The Real Deal commercial real estate news site. As the homeless crisis rages here in Los Angeles, the L.A. mayor has selected a new top advisor on homelessness and housing in the city. Mayor Karen Bass has selected Lourdes Castro Ramirez, who oversees much of the state's homeless and housing spending. She'll start as Mayor Bass's chief on the issue starting next month. Meanwhile, L.A. County and city will be spending billions of dollars to provide more housing and support for the homeless under a lawsuit settlement approved by a federal judge. I'll discuss all that tonight with the Reverend Andy Bales, the president and CEO of the Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles. And another reason to listen tonight, your chance to win a relax and rejuvenate getaway to Westgate, Las Vegas Resort and Spa. Stay tuned. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, the latest reading on jobs, and the drama playing out in Washington, too. Let's get the whole works tonight. Joining us live now, Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan Hoenig, thanks for coming to the line here on an update for a change. Give us your reaction to the latest action here today.
Well, Frank, great to be with you. And look, I need to relax and rejuvenate because despite the fact that you said we did have an update today, the market still is extraordinarily weak. 84% of stocks are below their 50-day moving average, their short-term moving average. 70% are below their longer-term, their 200-day moving average. It just tells you that the trend overall continues to be down. Even today, what you said, it was an update for stocks, but only 22 new highs and over 500 new lows. So, you know, the old saying, one sparrow does not make a spring. I'm happy to see that we had an up day, but I still think this underlying trend, higher inflation, ultimately higher interest rates, and a slowing economy is going to put a lid on stocks in the days to come.
And certainly stocks were rattled yesterday. The Dow plunged more than 400 points. It was down about 500 earlier in the day yesterday, biggest daily percentage drop since March when we saw that banking crisis in those days. And obviously, I mentioned commercial real estate already here. We'll be talking more about that tonight, but it looks like some of the banks are still under pressure with commercial real estate collapsing in some areas. And obviously, with the interest rate situation as it is, give us your assessment there. Are we about to see more shoes to drop in commercial real estate and in the banking sector here?
Well, Frank, you've been a student of the markets for quite some time. I mean, I've studied market history. I don't ever remember interest rates going up so much, so fast. I mean, in just 2 years, the yield on the 10-year note has gone from about 1.4% to almost 5%. So, a tremendous increase over such a short period of time. And for those of us who are investors, Frank, I mean, if you bought a long-term government bond 6 months ago, you've already lost 20%. So this rise in interest rates is really putting a kibosh on so many elements of the market. Even Citigroup, good old State Citigroup, the major bank, at a 52-week low today, along with dividend stocks, preferred stocks, REITs, utilities, everything that affect, depends on those short-term yields. So, this really is number one factor for the market right now, these higher interest rates, and thus far the trend has not reversed.
I don't know if you saw the headline, Bond King, Bill Gross. I don't know if you even want to be known as a bond king these days based on what you just said. Bond King Bill Gross says investors should shun stocks and bonds. No longer thinks bonds are attractive investment, but better than stocks at least. Given that traditional mix that people have in their 401ks, for example, that 60-40 mix of stocks and bonds, are people coming to you and rethinking this? You're absolutely right. We've never seen anything like this environment.
Yeah, and Frank, in fact, this is likely to be a year, stocks have just barely turned negative for a year. So this could be perhaps another year in which both stocks and bonds have lost money. And in fact, almost certain to be the third year in a row that investors in so-called safe government bonds have actually lost money. That hasn't happened in the modern history. So, what I think is a little more worrisome, Frank, even more than machinations in the market, is the indicator that, yes, in fact, long-awaited recession finally could be coming. Part of that sell-off today in oil, you mentioned, was the expectation of an overall slowdown. We're seeing credit card spending is slowing down pretty dramatically. So there's a number of worrisome signs that perhaps the economy is starting to catch up with some of the market indicators and is slowing overall in the weeks to come.
And then we had the vacating of the speaker in Washington, and there's nobody running the House of Representatives at the moment. I guess somebody is temporarily, but business has been halted there, right? And I know this is something you've been discussing on the Fox Business Network and the Fox News channel. What about that and its impact? The House obviously is responsible for spending and plays an important role in the global economy, and no business there whatsoever.
Indeed, Frank, and if you're responsible for spending, that's all they've been doing. People are trying to say, well, is this a Republican? Is this a Democrat issue? Go back and look at the national debt. It's risen consistently under both parties, and I think that's what's so disappointing and so worrisome now is that the bills really are coming due, and those higher interest rates are exacerbating the cost. Even now, Frank, the federal government spends more on the national debt than it does on interest on the national debt than it does on national defense. So, these bills are already piling up dramatically. And, to Jeff Gundlach's point about buy a T-bill and chill, Jesse Livermore used to say, there's a time to go long, a time to go short, and a time to go fishing. The market's sending some pretty worrisome indicators now with some of these pretty dramatic moves. And I'm not a Cassandra. There's a lot of bearishness out there right now, but also a lot of worrisome signs on the horizon. And the turmoil in D.C. isn't helping much.
Certainly. And, of course, the question that has to be asked on the outlook for the economy, soft landing, hard landing, bumpy landing, no landing. Where do you land on that one?
Well, I think you have to focus on your own situation, Frank. I mean, look, if you really are in it for, as they say, the long term, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, if you've got that long-term time horizon, now's a great opportunity just to, as we've always said, get your financial house in order. Regardless if it's a soft landing or a hard landing, you want to have those consumer credit card bills paid off. Frank, a credit card is now bills in this country topping $1 trillion for the first time and paying north of 24, 25%. There's there's no stock pick in the universe that can help you if that's what you're paying to Visa and MasterCard every month. So take this opportunity to get your financial house in order. I don't know whether it's going to be hard or soft, Frank, but I do think you'll see not only interest rates go up, but ultimately unemployment go up. I mean, it has been pretty steady. There has been tremendous employment, but that's oftentimes one of the last indicators to move. It's a real lagging indicator. The markets are a leading indicator. Price leads. So the fact we're seeing a lot of markets selling off now, I think, lets you know, as they say, winter might be coming for the economy writ large.
And we've been hearing the expression higher for longer, and that appears to be the case with the Fed's intention on short-term interest rates, and that looks like to be the case for consumers as far as credit card interest rates are concerned. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Getting back to oil for a moment, it is to be noted it plunged more than $5 today to $85.81 a barrel in New York. That was a big one-day plunge, and we've seen gas prices here at or near record highs here in the Los Angeles area for quite some time now, and we've seen in the past also that when oil goes up, gas prices go up like a rocket and then come down like a feather when the price of oil comes down. What do you see ahead here? We see some of the oil names taking a big hit today on the market, among the biggest losers today, and after this big recent run-up.
Well, so much of your cost out there in California, Frank, obviously is due to taxes, unfortunately. So you got not just a commodity problem, but a political problem out there as well that maybe the voters need to help with. But look, I had been bullish on oil names on your show in recent weeks, and boy, I lost a heck of a lot of money in these names just today. The expectation, again, is a slowing economy means slower demand for oil. These have been among the only names really moving on to new highs. So I'm not buying the dip necessarily. I don't think, put new money into oil at this point.
Let's talk about the job situation. We got that big report coming out on Friday. You think there might be another nasty surprise there?
It's always about the reaction. One of the best things you can say, Frank, is that there's a lot of bearishness out there. I mean, look, the news about inflation is not a surprise. The news about a slowing economy, this is pretty well known. One commentator on news today talking about the possibility of double-digit interest rates. So there's a lot of expectations, and we could see perhaps a pop, even if the number is a little bit better than expected. But I think you have to look at the long-term trend here. I do think there's places to put money to work. I mean, one name for at is the CBOE. Now, this is actually a buyout candidate, and if this is a true slowing economy, or even if stocks fall, names get bought out. So
Susie Schuster and Amy Trask present offbeat conversations and expert sports commentary as they ask, what the football?
When my family found out how long it took me to figure out why Charles Woodson named his wine Intercept, they said, there's a reason that you had trouble in school.
Not everyone knows, when they think of a bottle of Intercept, they don't know that I play football.
Well, what I've learned is a smooth defensive back can make smooth wine.
That's what it's all about.
What the Football with Susie Schuster and Amy Trask. The podcast is available Tuesdays, wherever you listen.
CBOE is a options exchange. I think it's a buyout candidate. I also like shipping here. BOAT, BOAT, is an ETF. I think if you have a good tolerance for risk, you can own. But, as Jesse Livermore said, Frank, when in doubt, stay out. And I think now is the time, given all the uncertainty, to, as the bond pig said, buy a T-bill and chill.
On there live with Jonathan Hoenig, and I always ask you this question. You've hit on some of the places where you're putting money now. Any other places where you'd be taking off the table at this point?
Yeah, I mean, as we said, you have to follow the trend. And things like dividend-paying stocks, preferred stocks, bonds, REITs. I mean, we mentioned some of these rising interest rates, Frank. It's pretty shocking. In just 2 years, the yield on the 5-year notes, short-term government bond has gone from 1% to almost 5%. So, all those stocks that you bought with yields of 2 and 3% now don't look so good anymore. I mean, this is just the severity and the importance of changes in interest rates, really like nothing we've ever seen. So all those names, dividend-paying stocks, as I said, real estate investment trusts, utilities, they're looking extraordinarily weak. I think you'd avoid those. But I'll give you something a little bit esoteric and off the table. If you do have a long-term time horizon, I like some exotic emerging markets right now, and EPHE, that's Edward Peter Henry Elephant. That's an ETF that actually tracks Filipino stocks, Philippine stock market. So I think now is a good time to look, if you really are long-term in those emerging markets, But the U.S., I think, is headed for a pretty dramatic slowdown. That's what the market's telling us today.
This time a year ago, we were talking about the crypto winter. It looks like we have a bond winter this time around here. But what about the cryptos in this unprecedented interest rate environment? We see Bitcoin now hovering just below 28,000, for example. Any observations here on what's happening with the cryptos here?
Oh, I have to say, Frank, they've almost fallen asleep. I mean, there was a time when we were talking about the dramatic machinations of all the huge volatility and moves in Bitcoin. And it's been, given the moves in interest rates, the government bonds have made Bitcoin look like a sleepy little sister this year. And I have to say that of all the different assets we've talked about tonight, Bitcoin's probably the strongest of all of them. I mean, it almost seems to be benefiting from the strength in the U.S. dollar, surprisingly. So, I wouldn't sell Bitcoin short right now. And I tell you this, I'd rather own Bitcoin than any U.S. banks right now, Frank. I mean, as I said, when you see a name like Citigroup at a 52-week low, I mean, it's such a huge stock. It's in almost everyone's portfolio. If you own a mutual fund of any sort, you own some shares of Citigroup. So, ironically, I think Bitcoin's probably a better bet in the next few weeks than Citigroup, Bank of America, or most U.S. large financial institutions.
And, of course, that one was benefited tremendously from the bailouts during the financial crisis. So very interesting, Jonathan, as always. Thank you very much for taking the call live with us here tonight.
I'll be listening. Thank you, Frank. Be well.
Thank you very much. We'll be looking for you on Fox News and Fox Business Channel. That is Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Live with us here tonight on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Folks, if you're hurt in an accident, you need an experienced advocate, and Clark Fielding and his team of sharks at Fielding Law are on standby, ready to dive into your case. My friend Clark the Shark is fearless for justice and your go-to attorney when injured in an accident that wasn't your fault. Whether it's a car accident, slip, trip, fall, or any other personal injury, Fielding Law is here to make sure you get the care, attention, and compensation you deserve. Fielding Law can assess the circumstances of the case, negotiate tenaciously with the insurance companies, and if necessary, file a lawsuit and litigate to seek fair compensation on behalf of you, the injured party. An injury is a major disruption in your life. Medical expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, property damage, and other losses incurred as a result of the injury are part of the damages. Don't try and handle this process alone. You need an expert in the process. The team at Fielding Law are the ones to trust. Put Clark Fielding's number in your phone under the word accident. The number is 833-88-SHARK, 833-88-SHARK, or go to clarkthesharklaw.com. All this week, KBC is your chance to win a relax and rejuvenate getaway to Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Spa, which includes a 2-night stay at Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, dinner at Edge Steakhouse, and spa credit at Serenity Spa. Right now, folks, be caller 9 at 1-888-795-2222, 1-888-795-2222 to win a relax and rejuvenate getaway to Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Spa, home of the legendary Vegas Fund. Must be at least 21 to win. Prizes provided by Westgate Las Vegas. Call now. Caller 9 wins 1-888-795-2222. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. A winning day for the stock market for a change, with the Dow breaking a 3-day losing streak and coming off one of the worst days of the year. We saw the Dow plunge 431 points at the closing bell yesterday, posing its biggest daily percentage drop since March. Today, a bit of a rebound. The Dow up 127 at the close at 33,129. The S&P 500 up 34 to 4,264. And the NASDAQ gained 177 at 13,236. The yield on the 10-year note easing a bit today, and that helped the stock market. The yield on the 10-year note, which impacts the fixed-rate mortgage rates out there, at 4.75%. Tesla shares moving up nearly 6% today. We saw Devon Energy in the energy patch down more than 5%. This as the price of oil took a more than $5 a barrel plunge back to $85.81 a barrel on concerns about the economy. In the cryptos, we see a Bitcoin moving higher by about $150 at $27,808. Ethereum up 8 cents to actually $8 to $16.50, and Doge hanging in there at 6 cents. Looks like we have an announcement from Comcast and Charter. Xumo, a joint venture between Comcast and Charter, formed to deliver the next generation of video entertainment, announcing the launch of Xumo Streambox to Spectrum households here in Southern California, with plans to bring its Xfinity homes soon. Xumo Streambox reported to be the newest device to be powered by Comcast Entertainment Operating System, the latest entertainment experience. according to the news release we got just moments ago from Comcast and Charter. Taking a look at some of the movers today, we see Apple moving up nearly 1% after KeyBank's Brandon Nispel cut his rating on Apple to sector weight after being at overweight for at least 2 years. Moderna, the pharmaceutical company, moving up more than 1% after the company said its combination vaccine to protect against both COVID and influenza generated a strong immune response compared to individual shots for the viruses that happened in an early stage study. And Cal-Maine Foods tanking 7.3% after the egg producer reported quarterly results that came in below analyst expectations. And this, by the way, as the average price for a dozen eggs fell to $1.59 from $2.28 a year ago. Mottek On Money continues here on 790 KABC as the homeless crisis continues in Los Angeles. The LA mayor has selected a new top advisor on homelessness and housing in the city. California, by the way, home to nearly a third of the nation's homeless population at this point, and the population of homeless in Los Angeles is estimated to be around 75,000, which is larger than most of the cities in Los Angeles County and indeed larger than the population of most cities now in the United States. Mayor Karen Bass has selected Lourdes Castro Ramirez, who oversees much of California's homeless and housing spending. She'll start as Mayor Bass's chief on the issue starting next month. Meanwhile, L.A. County and City will be spending billions of dollars to provide more housing and support for the homeless here under a lawsuit settlement approved by a federal judge. At the forefront of this big issue, joining us live now is the Reverend Andy Bales, the president and CEO of the Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles. He also hosts the show Amazing Stories from Skid Row here on 790 KABC on Sunday mornings. Reverend Andy Bales, thank you very much for taking the call here. First of all, give us your reaction to the big news here on the mayor's announcement and then also this big settlement approved by the federal judge.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. Yes, I believe I know Lourdes a little bit, and I know the mayor is doing her best and most valiant effort. She's a courageous mayor, but I have to say, unless they start working toward more sustainable models, not $640 per day models, but more like a Union Rescue Mission model of $88 per day per person, will we be able to solve this? We can't continue spending what we're spending and address the thousands that are on the streets. We have 50% of the street homelessness in the United States in California alone. I was thrilled with the federal judge and the Alliance for Human Rights coming to the agreement with the county. The county should have agreed to those 3,000 beds, in my opinion, back in 2019 when their director advised them of such. We need more beds, but anything will help, and it's progress. So I have some hope for LA, but we've got to change to sustainable models, tiny homes, bigger than the little ones, 100 square feet to 300 square feet for maybe 25 to 30,000 each, mobile homes for 80,000 each, prefab homes, innovative housing. We can't continue to spend the money we're spending and solve this problem.
We're all juggling life, a career, and trying to build a little bit of wealth. The Brown Ambition podcast with host Mandy and Tiffany the Budgetnista can help.
If I do even consider lending, I always ask myself, will this solve the problem? So I know you don't have your money for mortgage because you don't have a job. So what happens next month? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about the next month. Now, it's another thing if you're like, hey, Tiffany, I have $1,000 left to pay my car and then I'm car note free and I'll be able to pay you back, the 3 months I used to pay my car note. That solves the problem.
Brown Ambition,
wherever you listen.
On the air live with the Reverend Andy Bales. Reverend, what is the situation there at the Union Rescue Mission now, and what does Skid Row look like at the moment?
Well, Skid Row is still rough. Union Rescue Mission is packed. I think we have 230 people in our gym. Mostly that's families. I was out at Hope Gardens today, and I had a mom come up to me and say, "Thank you. I called you a year ago. You sent an Uber to get me off the streets. I moved into Hope Gardens. I'm graduating next week. I got my kids back today, and you saved my life. And I heard similar things from about 4 or 5 women and moms, and it's just music to my ears. I don't think there's anything I could hear that's sweeter. And, it's our donors that make that possible. They're our partners, and they make it all possible.
That's wonderful. I remember when Hope Gardens opened in the Valley, helping mothers and children primarily, right?
Yes, mothers and children and 25 senior ladies. We hope in the future to build another building out there that will help more seniors and a variety of moms and kids. But we can't do it without private support. We have yet to receive. Even though I negotiated for some recovery money from our mayor this week, it didn't happen. But we can't receive any recovery money as of yet from federal or state or local. So we depend completely on private donations. And you've always been a great supporter. Thank you, Frank.
Well, you're addressing the business community here now, Reverend Bales. So while you have the chance, tell us the best way for people to support all of your efforts here. And I have to say, let's please remember, as you do, I'm sure, every day, the late, great Scott Minard, who is one of your biggest financial supporters in the private sector. He always had matched donations, and had Scott Minard here, of course, not only analyzing the markets and the economy, but he was a passionate supporter of yours and all of your work, and we honor his memory. And I know he knew how to support you. Tell us how others can do the same.
Yes, they can go to urm.org and make a gift of any amount. Scott's been heavy on my mind today. I'm so thankful that you mentioned his name, and they can make a difference. We can join together to make a difference like Scott made by just going to urm.org and making a gift of any amount.
Reverend Bales, let me ask you this now. Is there anything else that we can do? Do you accept financial donations as well as goods donations too? How can people mobilize to help you there?
Yes, they can give us anything and everything: real estate, cars, donated household goods, clothes. We have clothing giveaways. We have 2 thrift stores. We will send a truck, and we appreciate all your generosity. We could not be the mission that always says yes and never says no without the support of our friends and donors.
Well, you are truly an angel in the city of angels, and as always, I wish we had more time, and hopefully we'll get that time at some point so that you can really explain even further what's happening there, and also to tell people how they can help and how urgent that help is needed. Reverend Andy Bales, thank you very much for taking the call. We'll let you get back to your important work, and thank you very much for all you're doing on behalf of all of us here.
Thank you, Frank. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Reverend Andy Bales, the president and CEO of the Union Rescue Mission in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. Folks, the future of joint pain relief has arrived. It's called QC Kinetics, Advanced Regenerative Medicine. Amazing stuff. Frank Mottek here. You've been told more steroids and surgery are your only options, right? Well, don't be so fast. Get a second opinion and learn more about how you can harness your body's own healing agents to attack that joint pain. I'm talking lasting pain relief. QC Kinetics doesn't mask the pain. These treatments go right to the very root of the problem, using concentrated healing properties placed directly in your joint to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. Imagine living your life this fall. No more pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or back. No drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. Life's about motion, and QC Kinetics is giving people their lives back with these all-natural treatments. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. QC Kinetics, locations in Glendale, the city of Orange, Mission Viejo, now also in Costa Mesa. The number is 213-997-PAIN, 213-997-PAIN. Again, that's 213-997-PAIN. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. Turning now to real estate, we see mortgage demand plunging to a 28-year low as the average fixed-rate mortgage rate is approaching 8%. Another report from a bank rate showed that the average of a 30-year fixed mortgage was around 7.88%. The rate was 6.75% at this time last year. We see the purchase market slowing to the lowest level of activity seen since 1995, and mortgage rates hovering at about a 23-year high. Meanwhile, L.A. home sales saw a slump in September, reversing August gains. Prices, though, still seem to be holding up. Of course, affordability, the big issue, as well as availability here in the Los Angeles area. And that, of course, goes hand in hand with the homeless discussion we were just having a moment ago. Meanwhile, in the commercial real estate world, the owner of an apartment complex in North Hollywood is now suing the city of Los Angeles, accusing local leaders of allowing dangerous conditions that led to a number of gang-related shootings. This after the city accused him of allowing the housing complex to become a stronghold for gangs. Let's talk about real estate now with one of the giants in the business, real estate expert Jerry Sullivan, national managing editor at the Real Deal commercial real estate news site. Jerry, thank you very much for taking the call. We're still in the afterglow of that great real estate forum you guys organized recently in West Hollywood, and that comprehensive report on real estate was very, very impressive. And give us an update now on what's happening with commercial real estate very much in focus these days with the banks and interest rates a big concern and possibly more shoes to drop. Give us an update on what's happening.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Frank. And, the market looks rough, especially commercial, especially office in Los Angeles. And I wouldn't expect that to change much. The commercial real estate owners tend to use rather short-term debt of a couple of years, and they get resets on their borrowing rates, and that's happening and driving up their costs as they reset in a higher interest rate environment. So, we're seeing some increasing defaults, bargain prices. The Aon Center on Wilshire, I think, there's a deal pending that I think is going to come in at about $145 per square foot. And that's Class A office in the heart of downtown. And that sort of gives you some sense of what's going on. 10 years ago, one Wilshire sold for around $660 per square foot. So that will give you some sense of what's going on, and expect more of that, I think.
All right. What about the return to the office? That slow return to the office coming off the pandemic. Are offices starting to get repopulated? We see in San Francisco that it appears office vacancies have hit record highs, for example.
Yeah, they're high in San Francisco. I think San Francisco is just up there on the ground in San Francisco. And it actually looks a lot better than it did a year ago. Still a lot of work to do. And it's still, even if you talk about the return to office, it's pretty much a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday phenomenon, which, leaves a lot to work out. So the vacancy rates are very high by historic standards and just otherwise. But I do think San Francisco is starting to get a grip on it, starting to figure out there might be, I hear talk about, it might be time to demolish some of the older office buildings and, perhaps as much as 10% on the San Francisco in the downtown market. And, things along that line. AI is actually driving a good chunk of office space. So there's some, a bright spot there. It's by no means the full and complete answer for San Francisco, but it could help. And so there's a number of things beginning to move in the right direction in San Francisco. And I don't see that sort of movement in Los Angeles right now. So it's an interesting sort of counterpoint at this moment.
Very interesting. And certainly crime and homelessness also a factor in some of the downtown areas. We just talked to the Reverend Andy Bales about the homeless situation, and we see this apartment complex in North Hollywood, for example, now suing the city, accusing local leaders of allowing dangerous conditions that led to a number of gang-related shootings. And certainly crime and homelessness also a factor in commercial real estate.
Yeah, and that case in North Hollywood I think is interesting, and I think it's a landlord essentially saying, come on, you have the police force. Who's supposed to take care of these problems? Does this really reside with me? And I think the issue in question in that particular property, and we covered that, and so I'm somewhat familiar, is it's an actual alleyway, which I believe is public space. And the contention is that the problem is in the alley, and it's become a point of congregation for illicit activities, and the landlord is essentially saying, this is on you, not me. Where's our public service? Where's our public safety? And, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, very interesting report in the Real Deal commercial real estate news site that you are the national managing editor on, and we appreciate that, Jerry. And let me ask you this, while we have you on the line, in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, right across what used to be the Staples Center, now Crypto.com, that enormous unfinished property there, those apartment towers, that Chinese project Oceanwide, still not finished, and nothing happening there. Any updates on what's happening in that billion-dollar project in the heart of downtown Los Angeles?
Yeah, I can tell you, I've picked up some bits of information since we last spoke, Frank, and I was actually on the ground there and got an up-close look at it. And I have to tell you, it's less finished than I had thought. I mean, this project is really, not even quite a full shell. And so there is a lot of work to do on this, and there's a lot of exposure there. I'm hearing now from very informed sources that its value is just about zero. In other words, you'd be hard-pressed to find a reason to buy it. There's about $1 billion into it, and I think the Chinese company, the Chinese developer behind it, has said it will take another $1 billion to finish it. It was designed before the pandemic and has an awful lot of hotel and retail, which is probably a mismatch to the market right now. It's been vacant and unfinished for a couple years now, so who knows how much deterioration has set in. And I've also heard that the city has made some calls about the possibility of trying to revive it in some way as affordable housing, which I don't know that would be possible even with gigantic public subsidy. But it really looks like a blighted chunk of the skyline for downtown LA, and I really don't see a way forward on it.
Certainly a very, very big story right there in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, this unfinished massive construction project involving these towers there. So we'll continue to follow that with you, Jerry, and we always appreciate the updates here and look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Thanks very much, Jerry Sullivan, National Managing Editor at The Real Deal commercial real estate news site, for joining us live here tonight. Jerry, have a great evening.
You too, Frank. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks again very much. And this is Mottek on Money on 790 KBC. Stay tuned for the 790 KBC News Blitz with our legal eagle, Royal Oaks, coming your way next right here. This is Mottek on Money on 790 KBC.
Every Monday, Rich Eisen and Chris Brockman react to what's happening in the world of football on Overreaction Monday.
Dolphins, Final Four AFC team.
Oh, that is not an overreaction at all. I'm with you.
You're in.
I am in. The other three Final Four teams, if you were asking me to call my shot, this is the Overreaction Monday podcast.
Call your shot.
Entertainment purposes only, unless I'm right.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens. Final Four.
Overreaction Monday, the podcast, wherever you listen.